Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. Well, I consider this conference as very important, and it is on time. I take time to visit the prisons, the correctional centers, every three months. In fact, in November, I was on the state tour of the correctional centers, and presently I'm on visit to the correctional centers. I have just come back from the western and the central part of the state, preparing to go to the eastern part. And there, we are grateful to God. The very essence of administration of criminal justice law, properly put in place, is really helping to decongest the correctional centers. I can assure you that I visited one where ordinarily the capacity is over 140, but we had just 22 there. Just 22. We had just 22 there. And we're still not satisfied with these 22. We don't want them to be there. In fact, at a particular correctional center, I think one of the officers said, please, just don't allow everybody, that place to be empty, because that's where we get our livelihood from. We said, okay, we'll try as much as possible. But for those who are not supposed to be there, we will not be there. SARS, we identified many problems, which I will also highlight when we start the real game. But one thing I want to say here is that the judges, taking for example my own state, the judges are always on the ground to listen to criminal matters in particular. We have record of this. No judge will not go for his case when he should be in the court. But most times, we have this problem that when the correctional center officers could not bring the defendants to the court. And the reason is just this, that they cannot get vehicle to bring them to the court. No matter if a judge likes, let him sit down there for the whole of the day. If the defendant is not there, he cannot do anything. But it's unfortunate that most times the judges are referred to, and I beg to disagree with this line of thought. I beg to disagree with this line of thought. The judges are always there. Because a judge who would travel from his station would have taken permission from the chief judge. So there was a time again, the officers had to meet me and said, please, can you make it possible so that these defendants are returned to their various centers as early as possible, because we don't have good tires on our vehicle. And this one I'm talking about is that from the correctional center to the court, it's about 2 hours drive. And all you see on the road is just forest. The criminals can come out there and release the defendants, and at the same time, kill the officers. So I had to issue instruction to the judges and the magistrate that latest by 2 p.m., the defendants from the correctional centers should be on their way to their various centers, which we have started doing again. And I told them that the cases of those who are awaiting trial, because when you get to the correctional centers, you see 2 classes of inmates. One, those who are there pending trial, and you see those who are already convicted there. I have instructed the judges that they should make sure that nobody should stay in detention for more than, not even more than 3 months in detention. There should be no defendant there. And that's why I take it upon myself to make sure that every three months I am in the center. The last one, it may interest you to know that the last one, when I went to a particular center just some few weeks ago, the person that was charged for culpable homicide case, punishable with death, in November, is now a convict. You can just take how many months that the trial was conducted. November, he was awaiting trial. By March, that's April, was already a convict. He was happy. He now said, Chief Judge, we are grateful that today I am a convict. I am a convict that is happy for the speedy trial. So most of these defendants, they will be happy if we have speedy trial with the cooperation of the officers of the correctional centers to bring them before us. But one thing I want you to go home with today is that every chief judge is interested in speedy trial, and we have all the arrangements on ground to ensure that, subject to the other stakeholders playing their part very well. Thank you, gentlemen. My Lord, I'm grateful.
My Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Honorable Minister of Interior, may I be permitted to stand on the existing protocols? Well, for us, the Attorney General, first, we are very grateful for this conference. Like the Chief Judge said, our sentiments are the same. Because of our responsibilities, we visit the prisons, and we are as concerned as he is. And we too, like the Chief Judge has said, have ensured that the Ministry of Justice, particularly public prosecutions, are on top of their job. In fact, during the COVID-19 experience, we were visiting the police stations to see how we can attend to those who couldn't go to court. So we have constantly been on our toes to ensure that inmates don't spend unreasonable time in the facilities. But this conference is very, very timely, and we hope that it will continue to assist in this whole process. We are grateful to be here, and I don't intend to take so much time. I just want to thank the organizers. We are grateful. Thank you.
Honorable Ministers here present, my sister, Honorable CJ N, my darling brother, and all distinguished persons here present. I want to join the other speakers to congratulate the Ministry of Interior for bringing up this issue, the congestion of prisons. My children are there, boys and girls. Let's bring it out with family ethics, community ethics, tolerance, patience, hard work. We have vast of land. Make them farm. We have poverty. Make them farm. When they come out, they should be monitoring evaluation of who went out, how they went out, and what they do. So they don't turn left again and go to ungoverned forest. That forest should be governed. They should farm. We need food for Africa, Tanko. We need food. So I don't want to say so much, but we need to have a monitoring evaluation of the skills, the ethics, the addresses, and what they should do. Tailoring, farming, there are so many things they should do. Turn them out well into the society. Let us be humane in our approach to them. Let's not condemn them when they come out. I don't want to say too much, like I turn you into my class. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to specially acknowledge the Chief Justice of the Federation, our amiable Justice Olukayode Arewola. I want to acknowledge my champion. I call him my champion, the Honorable Minister of the Interior, because he fights and supports me in council on every issue that affects women. So today is a very tight day for me. I have programs back to back. You know, women issues are everywhere. I have to be supporting all my colleagues in order to drive home issues affecting women. But I had to give priority to this one because I'm very, very excited that this program is taking place today under the able leadership of my very dear brother, Ojeni Raouf Arewachala. Well done and keep up the good work. I also want to acknowledge the Permanent Secretary, another dear brother, Shai Balkure. I want to acknowledge the former Controller General and the present Controller General of Correctional Service, Mr. Haliru Nababa. I acknowledge in a very special way the country rep of UNICEF. You will agree with me, as a mother, we work hand in hand with UNICEF on issues affecting children, and that's why I'm here to lend my voice on the issue of decongesting our prisons, particularly as it affects women and children. Women issues are human rights issues, children issues are human rights issues, and we must all do everything possible to protect our women who are mothers of the nation and our children who are the future leaders of tomorrow. Today, I stand here in solidarity with the Ministry of the Interior as they organize this two-day high-level conference on decongestion, our correction services, and to thank all the partners, TRAWA, OSIWA, and UNICEF for working hand in hand to ensure that our correctional services are decongested. I want to commend and thank President Muhammadu Buhari that under his able leadership, we have put in place the Nigerian Correctional Service Act in 2019, and today the name has been changed to Correction Service. Changing the name has a psychological effect to help victims or those that have gone wrong either by default or the other way around. Particularly women and children. When children are detained on flimsy minor cases, either hawking or domestic offenses, due to societal influence, keeping them long in the prison will destroy them more. And therefore, I commend the Ministry of the Interior, and I thank our Chief Justice that is here personally without sending a representative, and all our Attorney Generals of the various states that are present to ensure that our justice system acts promptly on all matters affecting detained people, particularly women and children. As a mother, I can speak for all, but particular reference to women and children. Therefore, I appeal that at the end of your conference, I know you are already, a lot of reforms are taking place under the able leadership of the Honorable Minister of Interior, but we must also do more as we decongest our prisons. Those detained must be engaged in skilled acquisition, training, so that by the time they leave the prisons, the correctional services, we must avoid this word prison as much as we can. They will be better citizens in our society. Justice delayed is justice denied. Our Chief Judge, I want to also use this opportunity to cry out to you. We've been talking with my chairman, the Attorney General of the Federation, on the need to ensure that all those delayed cases of gender-based violence should be treated with dispatch. Because a lot of women are being killed or dying silently due to gender-based violence. And such people should be treated with dispatch by being convicted to serve as a deterrent. But delaying or keeping them to be enjoying and eating government food without being convicted is not right. I believe your presence here will do a lot that this conference will come out with very useful and prompt actions that would lead to the dispensation of justice as fast as possible to ensure that our correctional services are completely decongested. The same issues happen even in our Boston institutions, where these young men and women, young boys and girls are kept for long. Please, we must do the best we can to dispense justice immediately so that they can be useful. I want to thank all those that have taken time to be here to lend their voices to ensure that our prisons are decongested for a better society. Because most of the problems should be treated as a sociologist. Some of these problems need more of counseling. So our prisons should have counseling services to counsel these victims, counsel the young ones, and counsel the women, so that by the time they come out, they are better citizens. Once again, I congratulate the Minister of Justice, the justice system under the leadership of the Justice, of our the Chief Justice of the Federation, and all those in line with the justice system at the various states that are here present. Thank you, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
There is no saying that one of the most topical issues in our criminal justice system today is the need to reform the processes and conditions for managing offenders in custody in a manner that does not only respect the human dignity, but in line with international standards. This administration has continued to demonstrate unwavering commitment to harness ideas and integrate strategies geared towards addressing the challenge. In line with the Federal Executive Directive in 2017, where the Federal Ministry of Justice was directed to decongest the correctional centers nationwide, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation inaugurated the Presidential Committee on Decongestion and Reforms, now known as the Presidential Committee on Correctional Reform and Decongestion, headed by His Lordship, the Chief Judge of FCT, the former Chief Judge of FCT, Dr. Ishaq Bello, retired. The committee is focused on initiating strategies for sustainable decongestion of the custodial centers nationwide. The committee is tasked by Federal Executive Council to review cases of awaiting trial persons, cases of condemned convicts on death row for over 10 years, with the view of getting relevant authorities to commute the sentences to life imprisonment. Minor offenses with option of fines and peculiar cases. The committee has visited and appraised about 36 prisons in 22 states. The Honorable Attorney General has written at different times to state executives, appealing to them to conduct regular decongestion of correctional centers by exercising their powers of releasing inmates who are found to have stayed beyond the maximum sentence. or committed minor offenses, and to ensure that awaiting trial persons are assigned and taken to courts regularly. From records, whilst working with state executives and other stakeholders, over 12,000 inmates have been released nationwide. In November 2019, the Federal Ministry of Justice hosted the National Summit on Correctional Reforms in Nigeria in collaboration with the Nigerian Correctional Service with the theme Strategizing for Effective Correctional System Reform and Decongestion to strengthen the implementation of the landmark Nigerian Correctional Service Act 2019. The Ministry, in collaboration with Nigerian Correctional Service, upgraded the Skill Acquisition Center at the Kefik Correctional Center, Nasarawa State in December 2019 and provided the equipment and materials needed as a step towards attaining the objective of the said act. Also, 31 inmates were trained on vocational skills. On our visit, after the 1 month of the training, we met that these inmates had actually produced excellent shoes, beautiful bags, and all the barbing. They had the barbing salon and all that. And one striking thing is that they even produced a pair of shoes for the Minister of Justice, Minister of Interior, and they produced a pair of shoes for the chairman of the committee, who immediately wore the shoes right there. And he said that when he got home, his children asked him, "Daddy, is this another Gucci shoes you just purchased?" He said, "Yes, Gucci made in Nasarawa State." The ministry, in collaboration with the committee, the judiciary and relevant stakeholders, worked assiduously to produce the Federal Capital Territory Courts Custodial and Non-Custodial Sentencing Practice Direction 2020. The guideline is to enable all courts in the Federal Capital Territory that exercise criminal jurisdiction to award non-custodial sentences in line with the provision of AJA 2015 and the Nigerian Correctional Service Act 2019. This is focused on the congestion of the custodial centers. The ministry also went ahead to organize capacity building workshop on this same sentencing guideline for judges, magistrates, police officers, correctional officers, and prosecutors. To address the backlog of cases during the pandemic, the Federal Ministry of Justice, in partnership with the government of Japan and the UNDP, deployed and launched 2 virtual court rooms in the Kuje Correctional Center in December 2021. The aim at the time was to fast-track the increasing cases of SGBV offenses and high-profile cases, while limiting the risk in transporting inmates from the correctional center to the courts. During one of the jail delivery exercises we had in Kuje, that's the committee had, December 2019, the chairman of the committee ensured that over 40 judges and magistrates came on the jail delivery exercise and assigned cases right there of all awaiting trial persons to courts, to judges, to magistrates right there, and dates were given for the prison officers to ensure that they take them to courts on the appointed day, which was within a few days. The Federal Ministry of Justice, working with the Nigerian Correctional Service, Ministry of Interior, UNODC, UNICEF, child experts and relevant stakeholders, reviewed the Bastard Institution and Remand Sentence Act, LFN 2004, validated and harmonized same, and now called the Children and Youth Correctional Institutions Bill 2023. The new bill will be forwarded to Mr. President and then to the National Assembly for enactment into law.
I sincerely appreciate the honor accorded me to come and give a goodwill message at this very important conference, aimed at charting the ways and means of effectively decongesting and reforming the corrections administrations in this country. You will all agree with me that this program is taking place at the most auspicious time in our nation's history. If I won't be mistaken, the planning and general organization of this particular conference is first of its kind in the history of Nigerian Correctional Service, given the fact that enormous sensitizations, courtesy visits, and consultations were earlier made by the leadership of the Ministry of Interior, usually led by the Honorable Minister himself. This is indeed a very huge legacy the Honorable Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, is leaving behind, and I have no doubt that his footprints have already been etched in the sands of time. I say congratulations to the management and staff of the ministry for putting up a conference of this magnitude, especially in the twilight of this administration. This credit again goes to my brother, Dr. Begore, as the permanent secretary of the ministry. This time we are in are evidently perilous. We cannot afford to keep living in denial while things are falling apart right before our very eyes. Our national cohesion and unity are viciously threatened by our palpable inability to do things the right way, by enthroning a regime of equity, fairness, respect for rule of law, and fundamental human rights. In several of my speeches at different fora, even before I became the Chief Justice, I've always harped on the imperative of upholding and consistently hosting the banner of the rule of law in all that we do as a government and as a people. There is certainly no alternative to that in any democratic society. Whenever the rights of people are trampled upon with impunity, as it is now, tried in our country, anarchy and other forms of vices are allowed to have a free rein. There is currently a large number of inmates in the various custodial centers in this country that are not supposed to be there at all. Some have found themselves there as a result of very minor offenses that attracted very little fines, that are probably the families couldn't immediately afford as a result of our extreme poverty. On the other hand, some may have found themselves in the confines of prison due to the simple fact that they were in a wrong place at the wrong time when random arrests were being made by the police for a crime earlier committed within the vicinity. Several reasons have been adduced to justify the remand of different inmates at different locations that could be harshly or mildly faulted if critically and comprehensively examined. For certain, it is an insistent reminder that morality must have a foothold on any society that respects and upholds the freedom and rights of its citizens. The prison system happens to be one of our democratic institutions upon which the rule of law is founded, built, and of course assessed. It is like a mirror through which reflection we see our true image in the observance of the rule of law and tenets of a constitutional democracy. We have had some cases of wrongful prosecution and conviction which were rightly and immediately corrected at the appellate courts. I need to make it clear here that as a matter of fact, prosecutors are, to a very large extent, at the mercy of the police on the success or otherwise of criminal prosecution. This brings to the top the imperative of cordial work relationship between the prosecutors and the police, as the latter are required to make available a duplicate copy of a criminal case file, especially in capital offenses, to the Director of Public Prosecution, DPP, in the state where the crime was committed for legal advice. To further buttress the importance of the police in the criminal justice chain, the advice to be given by the DPP will still have a foothold on the findings and report of police investigation. One crucial thing I would like to point out at this juncture is that any system that is wholly dependent on human beings is by virtue of that very feature fallible. We have consciously identified these problems to have been firmly rooted in eyewitness misidentification, overzealousness of the police in some instances, prosecutorial bad faith, community pressure for prosecution and conviction, and even in some cases, false accusation, bias, and negligence. However, the existing good working relationship between all those involved in the criminal justice chain has been helping to address such endemic problems, mostly sparing the innocent the agony of wrongful prosecution. From the information already in public domain, unnecessary prison congestions have severally led the incessant jailbreaks, and of course, the overstretching of the various dilapidated custodial facilities across the country, built over 100 years ago, that currently accommodated about 76,171 inmates, most of whom are awaiting trial, with annual feeding costs estimated to 2 billion naira. This conference is long overdue, no doubt, as it is very obvious that our custodial system has absorbed avoidable decay, retrogression, and despicable stagnation over the years as a result of policy inconsistency. What else can one say about the facilities in our various custodial centers that have been consigned to a state of squalor, just a direct replica of the relics of colonialism that they rightly have, without any touch of modernity? Also of great concern is the complementary criminal justice that still has all the trappings of inequity and underdevelopment, as it has roundly failed to reflect contemporary realities that have always been advocating for, in order to enthrone a seamless dispensation of justice. The issue of the congestion and reform in corrections administration has always occupied the front burner of public discourse since the advent of this democratic dispensation, and we have been waiting with bated breath to see the reform truly happen in our lifetime. Successive governments have openly lamented, but without any viable action or blueprint on ameliorating the deplorable, unacceptable, and inhuman conditions of our prisons as custodial and correctional homes for offenders and awaiting trial detainees. This trend will not change until we begin to march words with action. And I fervently believe that this conference is not going to be one of those numerous talk shows that we have had in the past. I am confident that something meaningful and impactful will emerge from this unique August gathering to chart a much clearer pathway to the development and upgrading of our custodial facilities. The onus squarely rests on our shoulders as critical stakeholders of the Nigerian state to allow our conscience to dictate the pace for us in order to evolve a nation where peace and justice shall reign without an inhibition. I'm a strong believer and an advocate of continuous improvement in all that we do as government and as individuals. As iron had to bear the rigors of fire and hammer before turning into steel, humans need to step outside of their comfort zone to chisel away the dust of lethargy that they have gathered with time from their persons. On this very note, as usual, I would like to personally appeal to all judicial officers and those directly and remotely connected to the administration of justice chain in the country to distance themselves from primordial sentiments and disposition by humbly making innovations their armor and hard work their armaments to confront the headwinds of ignorance, conservatism, and stagnation. We will be mindful of the salient fact that the world only remembers those who lead from the front and set trends for others to emulate. So, never be afraid of setting sails
through uncharted territories, provided your knowledge is up to date and your skills are well tested. I've always been an ardent advocate of positive change, and I will be eagerly waiting to see some positive and favorable changes evolve from this epochal conference. This is, especially as the organizers have assembled an array of resource persons with inimitable pedigree who will be taking us through the webs and tapestry of the imperative of the congestion and reforms of corrections administration, amongst others. It is a proven fact that those who remain intransigent to change and improvement, they never achieve anything. Permit me here now to use this medium to call on our esteemed legislature to intensify effort in making people-centric laws. In the same vein, the various ministries, departments, and agencies under the executive arm should show more than a passing interest in the general well-being of the citizenry by executing all the laws made without any selectivity or exclusionism. As for us in the judiciary, this is a reminder of the obvious, interpreting the law the way it should be, and with the fear of the Almighty God at the center of our heart. Our overweight visit to custodial centers will also be increased, with few to setting free those inmates with minor offenses and those that ought not to be there in the first place. When all these renewed commitments and efforts are properly harnessed by the three arms of government, the executive arm, the legislative arm, and of course, the arm that I'm privileged to be the head in Nigeria, this country will surely be better for it, and our national pride could instantly be invigorated and eloquently proclaimed to the global community. I thank you all for your audience.
Let's now look at the breakdown of inmates population by geopolitical zones. Current statistics show that Southwest has the highest number of inmates in custody with 17,549 inmates. The North Central logged in total 8,681 inmates in custody, representing the lowest in comparison to other zones. The Northwest has 15,661, the South-South 12,776, the Northeast 10,713, the Southeast 10,127. What about overcrowding in the Nigerian custodial centers? As earlier stated, congestion in the Nigerian Correctional Service is among the awaiting trial persons and is majorly an urban phenomenon. A total of 82 custodial centers are considered overcrowded. These are the custodial centers that account for the congestion we are talking about. These custodial centers lock inmates that far outstrip their installed capacity. A close look at the statistics shows that most of the inmates in the custody of these custodial centers are awaiting trial persons. Some highly congested custodial centers, I must mention here a few of them. For instance, in Port Harcourt Custodial Center, it has a capacity of 800. To surprise you that as 8th of May, Port Harcourt Custodial Center lost 3,073 inmates, out of which 2,724 are awaiting trial persons. Kaduna Custodial Center has a capacity for 547 inmates, but has 1,880 in custody. Out of this 1,880, 1,443 are awaiting trial persons. Port Harcourt Custodial Center, very alarming, has a capacity for 1,044, but lost a total of 3,083, out of which 2,348 are awaiting trial persons. Enugu Custodial Center, 1,947, but lost 2,419. Out of this 2,419, we have 1,894. My Lord, these are alarming rates of awaiting trial congestion. In Uyo Custodial Facility, We have a capacity of 613, but lock 1,345, out of which 1,190 are awaiting trial persons. The Medium Security Custodial Center, Kirikiri, the capacity for that facility is 1,940, but lost 2,767, out of which 2,528 are awaiting trial persons. What do I say of Onitsha Custodial Facility with a capacity of just 326? Onitsha lost 1,050, and awaiting trial population is 955. Warri has a capacity of just 307, but lost 1,010. Out of these 1,010, 573 are awaiting trial persons. This is just to mention but a few. When we come back, we break it down so that you will understand why we are here today and how to activate some of the mechanisms, if we don't have any, to see that our custodial facilities are decongested. Now, let's look at awaiting trial percentage to total inmates population by geopolitical zones. This is the analysis we saw. Our statistics show that the Southwest, like I said, has the highest average percentage of awaiting trial persons at 77%. That is 77% of inmates in custody in the Southwest are awaiting trial persons. Conversely, the Northeast has the largest average percentage of inmates as awaiting trial persons at 49.4%. Ebonyi State will surprise you. In the Southeast has the highest percentage with 93%, implying that 93% of inmates in custody in Ebonyi State are awaiting trial persons. Yobe State in the Northeast has the least, with 41%. Now, we try to look at the congestion trends in the Nigerian correctional service by going back 5 years to see how we can also do that analysis for us to understand the flow of congestion in our custodial facilities. Within the past 5 years, we took 2018 to 2022. The awaiting percentage has been hovering between 68% and 73%. 2018 ended with a total inmate population of 74,962. Out of this number, 51,060, representing 68%, are awaiting trial persons. It will interest you to know that in 2019, the total inmates population had a little drop to 73,526. Unfortunately, the awaiting trial persons population increased. While the inmate population was dropping, the awaiting trial persons population increased and caused the percentage to rise to 70%. By the end of 2020, the awaiting trial percentage gained 3% to close at 73%. This was in spite of the fact that the total inmates population dropped to 65,198. By December 2021, the total inmates and awaiting trial persons rose to 70,186 and 50,515 respectively, resulting in a 72% awaiting trial persons ratio. Last year witnessed a drop in the awaiting trial persons congestion to 69%. There was also an increase of the inmates population to 73,617 and awaiting trial persons to 51,025. In conclusion, Your Excellencies, with this analysis, you will agree with me that we are sitting on a time bomb, and something needs to be done urgently. Mechanisms need to be activated. The conference is about us interrogating this analysis to see how we can bring about a lasting solution to decongesting our custodial facilities. Thank you for your attention.
My Lord, what I've been asked to do is indeed to give a little brief highlight, just a little brief for this moment of what happened yesterday. And also to come back after the break for a bigger and more robust process around this. My Lord, as we all know, we're here because of a passion that has been demonstrated by the Honorable Minister of Interior, who have tasked us all to act. He has asked for concrete strategies that are not only effective,
but also to be found to be efficient.
Before now, when you see the warders or people working in the correctional service, you are demotivated. You don't want to have anything to do with them because they appear totally run down. That was how they were some few months back. Look, stand up, let them see. These are officers. They smart and brilliant. Yes, it's one of the few things we are doing to bring life into the correctional service. And I'm happy that they are happy themselves. Thank you. Sit down. We should appreciate small things. It's not when things are big that we must note them. See, the effort to bring new dispensation, new lease of life into the correctional system cannot be just too sudden. It should be gradual. And I'm happy that things are changing. They may not be as rapid as we want, but things are changing. From the demeanor of our staff and officers and men of the service, to even the appearance. And you need to visit. I know most people like me, before I became a minister, would not for anything want to enter a facility. But now I'm so used to it. And we have changed the interior, the internal space of those facilities. When you get there, you will think you're in a garden. We're landscaping the facility. And why and how do we do that? The quality of every society, the value, the rating of every society is determined by how the vulnerables are treated. Any society that refuses to treat the most vulnerable well cannot be a good society. That is why we take pain to at least things that will not cost much, but will have a huge effect. We spend time and effort in bringing them about. I'll speak a bit about what I mean, but let's go to the reason why I'm here. I titled my speech, The Urgently Needed Reform. The Urgently Needed Reform. It gives me great pleasure to be with you all at this occasion. I call it a workshop, we call it a conference, it's the same. The workshop was held yesterday, we are doing the conferencing now, on the conjunction and reforms in corrections administration. And it's high time that was done. I know nobody wants to be there, but in any way, people are there, nevertheless, in spite of ourselves. And they cut across all classes of people. The CGN told me when I visited him, a friend of his who was a top lawyer, he had read to it in his speech, but you won't get it. He said some are there by being in wrong place at the wrong time. He was in court. He left the court and parked his car to ease himself. Before he knew it, he had run foul of the law by some definition. Don't ask me how. And when he will contact, that happened in Lagos. It was during the military rule. When he would get to talk, to send message to his wife, he was in Imo State. In a gaol there. He recalled that because the person was close to him. Such things might be happening even now in Nigeria. And that is why it should interest us to, even for our own humanity, once in a while, whoever lives and passes on without visiting a hospital and a facility, must have not lived. Don't wait till when you have cause to be there by basis of criminality. I think it's even best for you to go there by choice, so as to appreciate the gift of life. The primary objective of the Constitution Amendment on corrections assented to by the President is to remedy the overcrowding of our custodial facilities resulting from a high number of pre-trial detentions, arbitrary arrests, inability to meet bail conditions, and general delays in the administration of justice system. And I'm happy I listen to you very, very well. I'll come to it. Let me make this clear from the start, ab initio. When we talk about congestion, this is a phenomenon in the large urban centers, such as Lagos, you saw it, Owerri, Ibadan, Kano, Kaduna, Port Harcourt, Enugu, and some state capitals, not all. And then some towns that are not state capitals. But it's an urban phenomenon. The custodial facilities in the not-so-urban areas are not as overcrowded, with many of them indeed operating below capacity. You had him. A facility that was meant to take over 200, having 24 people. So they're in a paradise. Except for the fact, and I'm talking about it, except for the fact that they do not have conjugal rights. I'm going to canvass for it now because I don't see why people who are incarcerated do not have conjugal rights. I don't see why. I mean, there is no law. There is nothing in the law which says because you're incarcerated, you must not have conjugal rights. If it's assumed to be a human biological need, why must we? I mean, you're already incarcerated. So why can't we canvass it? As population grows and society becomes more complex, conflicts in interpersonal relations and challenges of existence will breed more criminal tendencies. As a matter of fact, let me do this suggestion here. I was doing some references on my system. I Googled to find out. January 2023, January this year, does not show Nigeria at all out of over 200 countries. No, sorry, the list showed 30 countries. Nigeria did not feature. So what that means is this, and I'll get to know later. As big as we are, our system is not delivering convicts. There's a difference between incarceration and conviction. That index will not pick those who are just there and deemed to be innocent. It will pick only those who are there by court judgment. I think I'm right, sir. So Nigeria does not feature among the first 30 in the world of prisoner per capita. However, in crime rates, we are number 16. As of January 2023, we are number 16 in the world. Crime rate, that is, crime per 100,000 people. Nigeria is 64.06 are on crime per 100,000 people. We are number 16 in the world. But we didn't feature in prisoner per capita. And it's obvious, we saw it. We are told that the total number of people, the convicts in Nigeria today, as of today, May 8th, 2071, of a nation with over 200 million people. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just simply crazy. The present VP spoke at a colloquium of 2008, bemoaning the fact that something must be wrong with our system, our administration of criminal justice system, that will not deliver convicts. And that's why we are here, sir. We are not saying crime must not be punished. We are saying it is an injustice to keep people in prison, awaiting trial endlessly. If, as this CG operation had, it will show you in the, he said he will speak more on it later. There are people in our system who have stayed for double the length of time they would have stayed if their cases have been concluded. How can we explain it? Let's even assume they are deemed guilty, but they've not been so proclaimed by a competent court. But they have been there, they've served longer, they've served twice longer than what they would have experienced were they to be convicted. So we want to appeal to all of us. It's unfortunate the police is not here. Quite unfortunate. The police, I thought they should be here because they play a critical role in this. All of us are involved. We are not blaming anybody. To be the sane, civilized society, something must be done urgently to regulate this. As population grows and society becomes more complex, conflicts in interpersonal relations and challenges of existence will breed more criminal tendencies, necessitating incarceration for convicts and those awaiting trial, but which the justice system determined are best kept away from society. Of course, that's the business of keeping people away. We can't say that's the business anymore in Nigeria. Environmental sanitation offenders are taken to prison. Environmental sanitation offenders. Though we now have non-custodial, let them sweep their area now. That will serve a better purpose than taking them to jail. Nigeria presently has 244 facilities, custodial facilities, with the bulk of them being in the state capitals and some urban centers. These centers, which could accommodate 52,278 inmates, as of Tuesday, May 9, 2023, exceeded their limit by 23,000. And well, he showed you the percentages. He is more accurate than me. So the percentages is just on the average about 70%. We are lucky, Kenya is about 48%. But there's no joy in it. It's best that you do not experience it. And that's why I will say something that's not strictly here. We must commend the professionalism of these people, professionalism of our officers. As bad as COVID-19 was in the world, and as horrible, sorry to say this, sanitary of myself, as the overcrowding in some of our facilities is, we did not record, and I keep on repeating it because it's worthy of mention, we did not record a single COVID-19 infection or transmission in any of our facilities. As critical, as serious, as devastating as that pandemic was all over the world, there was no single case of an infection in our facilities or transmission. I've been telling people, if you want to challenge me, come with your facts. We didn't record what, so it goes to the credit of our officers and men, because how they achieved it is still a miracle to me. But they did it. These facilities are being run by the federal government. It should be noted that the criminal justice system of Nigeria makes provision for state and federal offenses. All the people in black here know that, but those of you who are not in black may not know. All those who are in black know that the federal system provides for local government offenses state offenses and federal offenses. However, until the amendment of the Constitution, only the federal government was in charge of custodial facilities and correctional service. With the amendment of the Constitution in this regard, states are now empowered to have their own correctional service. It's not just custodial facility. States are now empowered to, first of all, enact their own law, establishing correctional service, and build custodial facilities. And I'm happy we have state chief judges here. States have power now as against what was before. Part of what this workshop should do is to help us develop the guideline for collaboration between the federal system that exists now and the state system. I call it develop a transition program that will help the states gradually build their capacity, human and infrastructure, to operationalize the new amendment. Because if that is not done, we will all be groping. And I'm going to leave a strict instruction to my successor. Going forward with that law, states that don't have their own facility, you pay for your inmates. Federal government cannot bear this burden anymore. Rather use the money to feed the state offenders in our system to improve our facility. I hope I'm well understood though. I'm going to leave a strong recommendation to my successor. Successor, listen. It's no longer a responsibility to feed everybody. If they will not pay for accommodation, if we will give them accommodation free of charge, we will not charge you for accommodation. We will not charge the states for accommodating their inmates, their convicts and suspects. We will not. But going forward with the new law, we will not share. They will pay appropriate fee for feeding. So if they so do, they will know that just pushing people to us is not the best option. I will tell you why we have to do it. Well, I'm coming to it. Don't let me jump the gun. So states can now have their own correctional service and build their own facilities to house offenders who are convicted and sentenced for committing state offenses by their courts. Overcrowding, it is my belief that a sustainable transition arrangement will come out of this conference to guide the states in implementing the new provisions of the Constitution. Overcrowding in the custodial facilities has led to a huge drain of the federal government resources, being the only party shouldering the responsibility of running and maintaining the custodial facilities. The amendment of the 1999 Constitution, which has now placed corrections in the concurrent list, is therefore highly welcomed. This conference is also to bring to the fore applicable laws to aid the reform of the corrections, custodial and non-custodial sentencing. And I'm happy the CGN is there. There might be needs, sir. I am not qualified to advise you. I know nothing about law. I did some engineering, and I've been practicing policies forever. So I'm not qualified at all to advise. But just take it as one of the few things that happen from laymen to you highly informed and learned people. That a practiced direction must go to the states to implement what the things we are going to say here, because something must happen. Let's quickly decongest this. Let's decongest. If you have to, if you must even And I'm happy the Correctional General of Correction is there. If you have some emergency courts in the facility, let's also do to throw out as many people as possible. If it was stayed, a man who has been there for 40 years, what harm can he do? Over 70, what harm can he do? People who have terminal diseases, why can't they go home and die? Now, there are so many conditions we can set to free people from these places and reset our system. People have been there forever. Why should they be there forever? Some are senile, some can't think anymore, but they are there by law. You cannot send them out because you have no such power. And I must say to Nigerians here, those of us in interior and the correctional service have no power to release anybody. I have tons of requests. Raouf, help me. I said, release. If I do, without the authorization of either a governor or a competent court, I don't want to replace anybody. I have no such power. And I hope this will go very far. I have no such power. Our own is custodial service. We keep them at the direction of the courts. If one of my call me, he wants me to help him detain somebody. Where? I have no such power. I can't hold anybody there. I have no such power at all. Only cause of competent jurisdiction can sentence people to be detained, and they must come with a warrant. Without that warrant, we can't hold. And it's that same court that can say, okay, release. This conference is also to bring to the fore applicable laws to aid the reform of the corrections, custodial and non-custodial sentencing. Section 12, subsection 4 to 12 of the Nigeria Correctional Service Act, NCOS Act 2019, gives the Nigeria Correctional Service the power to reject inmates when centers are filled up. Dr. Uju had demonstrated on this very, very effectively, so I don't need to repeat it. We have the power. But yes, during the pandemic, we exercised it very, very effectively. But we need support of everybody to make it reasonable. The Controller General, by the provision of the Act, the Controller General of Corrections and all its agents, as officers who are in charge of the facilities, are mandated to inform the head of the judiciary in their jurisdiction when the custodial centers have exceeded their capacity, so that more offenders are not sent to the center to serve their sentence. Difficult to implement, but part of what this conference is meant to bring up. Where his information is not needed, he is mandated to reject the new inmates. It is hoped that the above measure will curb the dumping tendency leading to overcrowding of the custodial centers by encouraging the payment of fines for simple offenses. And I will come to that later, because even fines now, we have to be careful. I asked, and they have updated it. I don't know what it is, I've not read it. Some few months back, 6 months ago or thereabout, I mandated the correctional service to supply me with inmates who are incarcerated for fines at 1 million naira and below. And those who are equally in gaol for owing people for debt. Because in some section of the country, you can be jailed for owing people for debt. And the number that came up was 5,000. We have 5,000 people in custody for either inability to pay 1,000 naira fine or below, or owing people some money, 5,000. It will be updated. Let me see I raised it yesterday to 5 million. I said, let's raise the threshold to 5 million and see what we'll get. I've since written let me say this. I've since written the governors, and I sent the names and number of such inmates to them. I want to assume they've responded in some states. So the number has reduced to total number of inmates with fine is now 2,658. People are there and are in custody because they could not pay fines. What of those with, I want to assume those with debts who are here. I'm coming. Okay, we now have the states have responded to our earlier thing. We now have 4,067 inmates with option of fines or compensation of over 1 million naira and below. The number of people who are in our custody but are unable to pay fines of 1 million naira and below are 4,067 as at this morning. From the computation, the cost implication to on state-by-state basis, all combined, is 585,722,549 naira only. But those of you are saying, I don't see it as anything, and I will explain why. I did not have the courage to publicly express how much we spend annually to feed the inmates. The PS did. I wish people did not record him. It's humongous. What is a fine? What's a fine? Let me define it, because most people don't know what a fine is. Yes, it's meant to augment the revenue of the state and as a sanction for the offender. Okay. But where your cost, the cost of keeping that offender in custody, is more than what you want to take. Please, if you are the one responsible for offender, will you keep him in custody? No. That's the beauty of the new amendment. No state will keep anybody in his custody that will cost it more money to feed. It's because the states are not in any way responsible for the upkeep of the offender that they are adamant you must pay the fine when they even know that man cannot pay. Yoruba people, they say, Iku wonu aworo shakalu oshi oteni oni nkan. Yoruba people, they say that, look, when death gets to an empty earth, he cannot kill anybody. Poverty cannot harass an already poor, impoverished person. That's the English, that's the literal translation in English. Iku wonu aworo shakalo oshi oteni oni nkan. Somebody who is totally blessed. How can you threaten him with poverty? It's already poor. So you are an already poor man. You say you go to jail to pay 1,000. Where will he get it? He'll just be looking at you. So that is why even we must redefine fine. Not to now talk of people who are jailed for owing others. When you jail a debtor, how will he pay the debt? I can't understand it too. When you jail a debtor, what's the wisdom in jailing a debtor? How will he pay the debt? Non-custodial sentencing and also building and construction of new correctional facilities. It is important also to make a strong case for judicial reform that will put a cap on trial period. That to me is very, very important. It's already there, but it's observed in breach. There are guidelines, there are directives to the fact that there must be limit. Let us now go, let's now be more serious about it. The biggest cause of overcrowding is the proportionately large population of awaiting trial inmates. You have heard it. As we speak, the constitution is over 70%. These awaiting trial inmates constitute the biggest security risks and nuisance. They instigate riots and destroy the peace of our facilities. The worst part is that we cannot bring them to work. We cannot reform them. We cannot rehabilitate them. Because they are deemed innocent until their guilt is proven in court. So we are helpless. We just keep them. And they constitute a terror to themselves and their mates. This is because they are still deemed innocent and we cannot assume they are convicts. And therefore, begin to treat them like one, no matter how well-intentioned we are. They can on their own voluntarily agree to be reformed. On their own, it's a choice. You can't force them. You can only force them to come out and go in. You can manage their liberty and freedom. As to other things, the judicial reform should put a terminal date on trial. There are many inmates who have been behind bars for a period longer than the maximum sentence their alleged offenses carry. This is a miscarriage of justice and makes them to be bitter, angry, and predisposed to violence, especially when they believe they are innocent. Sometimes, consensual judges mitigate this by deducting the period the accused person has spent in detention from the sentence. But the harm has already been done, especially for those who have been detained for a period longer than their sentence. And there are many. There are not few. Quick and timely distribution of justice is in line with the best practice as obtained in other crimes. It might take days or weeks, but once trial begins, there should be no adjournment and prolongation until judgment is delivered and closure is put on a case, except it goes into appeal. If you eliminate half of the awaiting trial population in our facilities, there may not even be congestion again. There won't be, definitely there won't be. And that can be done with some radical thing. After managing this tribunal thing, let's quickly do something and pull out a lot of people. CJ, my Lord, I so plead. This is why it has become imperative for the health of the custodial system to urgently address the challenge of awaiting trial inmates that have swarmed our facilities. The government is working hard to support the system. As I'm talking, we have almost completed the construction of a state-of-the-art custodial village in Kano. It's called High Capacity Custodial Complex. 6 of them are already under construction in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. But one in Kano is a model. It's almost completed. Therein are 5 standard high courts in situ. In the facility are 5 standard high courts. And several other things, like, for example, we are converting the waste of the inmates to cooking gas and several other innovations. We are looking at having an academy within where if you want to do DSC, DD, you are free to so do. So, if we eliminate half of the awaiting trial population in our facilities, there may not even be congestion again. And we are pushing the envelope of building more facilities around the country. This is why it has become imperative for the health of the system to urgently address the challenge of awaiting trial that has formed by facilities. Stakeholders in the criminal justice sector must therefore brainstorm and develop a roadmap for effective management of custodial population and pretrial detention through the implementation of relevant sections of applicable law. I've taken your time. I thank you for your attention.